After a grueling day at sea, Felipe, aboard a vessel alongside a group of seasoned fishermen, retreats to his cabin to rest. But their night of routine fishing takes an abrupt and mysterious turn when a violent jolt rocks the boat. Jolted awake, Felipe rushes out to see what's happening, only to find the rest of the crew equally startled. Confusion gives way to concern when they realize they've caught something far more massive than they were prepared for. In desperation, they launch a flare skyward, hoping to attract attention. Their signal is answered, and not long after, a rescue team arrives at the scene. But what they discover is haunting. The fishing vessel has completely vanished beneath the waves. As the rescuers comb the site for survivors, Andre, one of the responders, spots a burst of radiant light dispersing from beneath the surface. The following day, Annabelle, a university oceanography professor, finishes her lecture when she's interrupted by an unexpected visit from Lionel. He brings troubling news. One of her father's boats has disappeared in the waters off the coast of Fay Camp. Strangely, no wreckage has yet been located. Just before contact was lost, the ship's sonar picked up an anomalous sound from deep underwater. Alarmed by this, Annabelle makes the decision to return to her coastal hometown to get to the bottom of the mystery. Relieved to learn that her father, Harry, wasn't aboard the ill-fated vessel, she arrives in Fay Camp and is greeted by Vital, the local chief of police. He informs her that neither debris nor the bodies of the 14 missing sailors have turned up. When Annabelle reunites with Andre, she embraces him warmly, happy to see a familiar face amidst the chaos. She then meets with the rest of the rescue crew to hear firsthand what they experienced. Later, in private, Andre confides in Annabelle. He arrived shortly after the boat sank and witnessed an intense light radiating from around the site, accompanied by a deep, resonating tremor that rippled through his entire being. While the others dismissed the account to avoid being labeled delusional, Andre remains convinced that what he saw was real. Having gathered the initial clues, Annabelle visits her father. Harry is thrilled to see her after such a long absence, but instead of staying at his home, she opts to rent a hotel room. The next morning, while prepping her boat to revisit the area where the vessel vanished, she receives a surprise visit, her estranged husband, Julian. Annabelle left Fay Camp 3 years ago, and since then, she and Julian have lived separate lives. Upon hearing of her return, Julian seeks her out. But their reunion is cold. Annabelle makes it clear she has no desire to rekindle the past. Hoping to clear her mind, she sets out alone on the water, leaving Vital waiting at the dock. Several kilometers offshore, her boat suddenly loses power, and she senses something strike the hull. Frightened, Annabelle scans the waves for answers, but just as mysteriously as it began, the ship's systems spring back to life, and she sails back to shore unharmed. That afternoon, Harry receives word from an employee that the missing vessel, the Rosa Davies, has been spotted by a drone, inexplicably adrift far from where it originally disappeared. Annabelle is stunned. How could the wreck be found so far from the supposed incident site? Julian, returning from a mission, confirms the bizarre discovery. His team located the Rosa Davies, but no bodies were aboard, and half of the ship was gone. Disturbed by the growing anomalies, Annabelle approaches the town's mayor with an urgent plea: halt marine travel until the strange disturbances are understood. She suspects some underwater force is tampering with navigation instruments. But the mayor dismisses her concerns, opting to wait for formal investigation results. As dusk falls, Annabelle walks along the beach, where 3 years earlier, tragedy struck. Her son Enzo had wandered into the sea to play with his toy boat and never returned. That devastating moment fractured her spirit and led her to abandon the town and everyone she once held dear. Julian had been married before Annabelle, and his older son, Jimmy, was just a child when Enzo died. That night, Jimmy sits alone on the beach, lost in thought, when a strange vibration pulses through the sand. Then, a vivid pink light emerges from the water. Entranced, he watches as it illuminates the ocean. The following morning, a cargo ship suffers a mishap, scattering its contents along the coast. Volunteers gather to clean up the mess. When asked if these incidents are linked, the mayor downplays the theory, insisting the shipwrecks are coincidental. Later, Annabelle and Vital visit the Navy to review the distress signal from the Rosa Davies. It was cut off right as the ship neared the area where the earlier fishing boat disappeared. Realizing that the authorities won't act fast enough, Annabelle decides it's time to take matters into her own hands. Determined to protect the lives of local sailors, Annabelle teams up with Julian to rally a group of fishermen and merchants. She warns them about a dangerous anomaly forming in the ocean, one she believes is behind the recent tragedies. But her lack of concrete explanations leads to ridicule. The townspeople mock her theory and grow furious when she urges them to suspend all sailing for the time being. Harry, witnessing the backlash, steps in and sets a deadline. Annabelle has only 24 hours to uncover the truth. If she fails, the boats will return to sea, and nothing will stop the men from doing their jobs. At dawn, with time slipping away, Annabelle boards her boat and sets course toward the suspected site. Vital joins her, concerned for her safety. Once they reach the target area, Annabelle deploys an underwater drone to search for clues. But as the device descends only a few meters, the screen goes black, signal lost. At the same moment, a sudden whirlpool forms, dragging the water into a tightening spiral. Vital panics and tries to start the engine, but the motor won't respond. The vortex edges closer, churning violently, but just before it can pull them in, it vanishes without a trace. Annabelle reels in the drone while Vital finally gets the engine running again. Shaken but unharmed, they return to shore, empty-handed. Still desperate for answers, Annabelle decides to try a more direct approach. The next morning, she prepares for a scuba dive, hoping to gather more definitive evidence. As she gears up, she crosses paths with her father, who, along with a crew of fishermen, is readying to set sail once again. Alarmed, Annabelle tries to talk them out of it, but Harry, tired of her interference, tells her she should leave town and return to her life in the city. Tensions rise, but Julian intervenes, persuading Harry to hold off for a few more hours. Thanks to her husband's support, Annabelle gets another chance to carry out her mission. She suits up and dives deep, the water wrapping around her like a veil of memory and fear. This is the first time she has returned to the sea since her son's death. As she explores the ocean floor, a strange, eerie sound echoes through the depths, something ancient, unfamiliar, and alive. After surfacing, Annabelle sends a message to Vital, asking him to meet her on shore to discuss her findings. Meanwhile, elsewhere along the coast, a team of ecologists begins its own inquiry into the mysterious disturbances. Vital, hearing of their efforts, rushes out with a rescue team to ensure their safety. He knows this part of the ocean has become dangerously unstable. Underwater, ecologist Sylvia and her crew photograph unexploded war-era missiles lying dormant on the seabed. But then, a deafening blast erupts without warning. A towering column of water explodes into the sky. From her boat, Annabelle sees the chaos and races to the site. She dives in and finds Sylvia unconscious, her body slowly sinking. Dragging her to the surface, Annabelle performs CPR and manages to revive her. But Vital, who is also in the water during the explosion, is nowhere to be found. Fearing the worst, Annabelle dives again, but finds no trace of him. Seeking answers, she contacts Lee, one of Sylvia's assistants. Since Sylvia remains unconscious in the hospital, Annabelle questions Lee instead. The young woman reveals that Sylvia had been photographing old military bombs, left behind since the end of World War I. Vital's disappearance begins to make grim sense. Because a police officer was presumed lost during the incident, authorities close off the sea. Guards are stationed at the coast, preventing anyone from continuing research. But Annabelle refuses to sit still. She believes the explosion was not man-made, but triggered by a seismic event below the seabed. Fearing that more bombs could be set off in a chain reaction, she pleads with the mayor for permission to return to the water. But the mayor shrugs helplessly. The restriction comes from a higher authority. With no other option, Annabelle turns to Andre for help. She asks him to help her sneak past the blockade by air. They board a plane, but midway through the operation, they're intercepted by the National Navy. Just before being captured, Annabelle stashes her memory card, containing critical data, in her pocket. Once on land, she finds herself in a military camp and is brought before Commander Helena for questioning. Helena demands access to her research, but Annabelle refuses. The commander seizes all her scientific instruments. Frustrated and out of options, Annabelle contacts Lionel, hoping he can help her recover her confiscated equipment. Back in Fay Camp, the sea blockade prevents fishermen from working. Facing mounting pressure and financial strain, Harry is forced to let several crew members go. The stress takes a toll on him, and Julian finds him in poor health, taking him home to rest. When Annabelle hears what happened, she visits her father, and for the first time in years, sees her mother again. The reunion is strained. Annabelle has carried deep resentment ever since her mother harshly judged her for being unable to attend Enzo's funeral. That night, Jimmy returns to the beach. Just like before, he sees the mysterious glowing light shimmering over the water. Innocently, he smiles, unaware of the danger lurking beneath its beauty. When he returns home late, Julian confronts him. Jimmy confesses that he believes Enzo appeared to him, his presence glowing in the waves. Stunned by his son's grief, Julian embraces Jimmy, realizing how deeply he still mourns his little brother. Meanwhile, Annabelle, alone in her hotel room, reviews the data from her memory card. As she listens to the recording from the dive, a chilling revelation dawns on her. The sound is not mechanical, it's a living entity. At daybreak, Lee arrives at the hotel to take Annabelle to a secret meeting with Andre and Amir. After hearing Jimmy's account of the glowing presence in the water, the fishermen contacted the ecologists, hoping to finally unravel the mystery. Annabelle shares the audio recordings from her equipment, and as the sounds echo in the room, Andre freezes. It's the same haunting vibration he felt the night of the shipwreck. Motivated by this confirmation, Annabelle hatches a daring plan to recover her seized equipment. Using a false identity, she infiltrates the military base. Inside, she accesses a computer and downloads all her previous data. But as she exits the tent, she's caught red-handed. To her surprise, Lionel is there with the guards. Brought once again before Commander Helena, Annabelle refuses to cooperate. She knows that once her discovery is in government hands, it may be exploited. Helena offers her a position working with the Navy, warning that if she refuses, someone else will take over, someone less ethical, perhaps even dangerous. The ultimatum rattles Annabelle. As she leaves, she confronts Lionel and learns a new truth. He once served in the Navy as an acoustics expert. Feeling betrayed, Annabelle walks out, overwhelmed and conflicted. Later, she finds herself at the beach, staring at the sea that has taken so much from her. Julian finds her there and gently invites her to join him and Jimmy for dinner, just like old times. Over a quiet meal, old wounds begin to soften. That night, Annabelle decides to stay at her old house instead of returning to the hotel. But the familiar walls stir old memories. She dreams of her son, an unsettling vision of loss and guilt. Awaking with a start, she walks downstairs and finds Jimmy in the kitchen preparing breakfast. She sits at the piano and plays a melody Enzo once loved. Though Jimmy cannot hear, he places his hands on the piano, feeling the vibrations of the music, and embraces her. It's the first time in years they feel like a family again. The next morning, with renewed purpose, Annabelle agrees to Helena's offer, but on her terms. She demands the return of her equipment and insists on assembling her own research team. With Lisa's help, she deploys 2 drones to the location where the magnetic anomaly was first detected. Live video captures the glowing presence beneath the water, vivid, breathtaking, and alien. As the team works to interpret the sound patterns emitted by the being, something extraordinary happens. Annabelle successfully establishes a rudimentary form of contact. The creature responds. But as they observe, the drones begin to malfunction. The magnetic field is interfering with their systems. Annabelle tries to pull the drones back, but Helena overrides her command. Believing they can collect more data if they get closer, the commander pushes the drones toward the creature. Her gamble backfires. The organism reacts with force, unleashing a powerful electromagnetic pulse that obliterates the equipment. Enraged by the reckless interference, Annabelle confronts Helena. The commander defends her decision, saying it was a calculated risk. But it's clear, her misstep has now made communication even more difficult. Suddenly, Annabelle receives a call from Julian. Sylvia, long unconscious in the hospital, has finally awakened. Annabelle rushes to see her. The truth Sylvia reveals is chilling. The explosion that claimed Vital's life was not an accident. The creature was provoked by the camera flashes from her equipment. With this revelation, Annabelle makes a critical deduction. The being is hypersensitive to light. Any sudden brightness is perceived as a threat. That's why it attacked the drones. To avoid another deadly misunderstanding, Annabelle proposes a radical new approach. No electronics, no artificial light, no machinery. If they want to make contact again, it must be on the creature's terms. She believes it is deeply territorial, and they must tread carefully. The next morning, Annabelle and Andre prepare for their next expedition. Helena grants them official clearance to sail. As they head to sea, Annabelle suits up, unaware that Helena has deployed an aerial drone to monitor the mission. Lionel, sensing danger, urges the commander to recall it. The creature has already shown what it will do when it feels threatened. But Helena insists on continuing surveillance. As Annabelle dives into the water, she spots the familiar pink glow. She follows it, eventually discovering a heartbreaking sight: an injured creature, tangled in fishing nets, struggling to breathe. She swims to help, frantically trying to cut it free. But she's too late. The creature takes its final breath. Then a low, thunderous sound echoes from the depths. Annabelle looks up, but before she can surface, a powerful current sweeps her away, slamming her against a jagged rock. Dazed and sinking, she begins to lose consciousness. Andre, sensing something is wrong, dives in after her. He pulls her to the surface and pilots the boat back to shore. Still shaken by what she witnessed, and by the creature's death, Annabelle returns to her mother's home, seeking comfort. Now aware of the creature's location, Commander Helena mobilizes a team of Navy sailors. Her goal: capture the adult specimen alive. But the sea has already changed. Grieving the loss of its young, the creature moves closer to the shore. As night falls, its luminescent glow becomes visible to the townspeople of Fay Camp. Though many marvel at the stunning light, the sound it emits carries sorrow, a haunting cry of mourning that echoes across the waves. The next morning, Annabelle wakes to find her entire family gathered at her mother's house. She tells them everything. The Rosa Davies didn't simply sink. It was pulled under because the fishermen accidentally caught the infant creature in their net. That tragic mistake led to the catastrophe. Now, Annabelle is resolved. She must help the surviving adult return to its natural home, an ocean trench over 11,000 meters below the surface. Down there, the Navy won't be able to find it. But to guide it back, she must find a way to communicate directly. The team devises a bold plan: use the town's lighthouse to emit light signals that can reach the creature. But they'll need to wait for nightfall to execute it. Meanwhile, tensions rise at the harbor. Pierre, one of the fishermen who lost friends aboard the Rosa Davies, is consumed by revenge. He rouses a group of men, urging them to return to sea and hunt down the creature responsible. Julian tries to stop them, leading to a scuffle between the two. Harry steps in, attempting to calm the situation, but Pierre breaks away and steals one of Harry's boats to pursue the animal. When Helena hears of the unauthorized pursuit, she dispatches soldiers to retrieve the rogue fisherman. Annabelle and Julian head out too, desperate to intercept Pierre before it's too late. Out at sea, the creature senses the threat. As the military ships draw closer, it retreats, unaware it's approaching a perilous stretch of ocean littered with unexploded bombs from the Second World War. Just as it seems to be fleeing, the animal halts. It's no longer trying to escape, it's preparing to defend itself. Annabelle reaches Pierre's boat and pleads with him to turn back. But her warnings fall on deaf ears. Then the sea erupts. A massive fin breaches the surface, giving Pierre his first clear look at the creature's sheer size. Finally, fear overrides his fury. He calls Julian and agrees to listen. Julian warns him that they're now sailing above live munitions, and any disturbance could trigger an explosion. Annabelle urges him to shut off the engines immediately, as the creature is just below them, slowly sinking. Contacting Helena and Lionel, Annabelle learns that the animal is descending directly over the bomb field. If it touches the seabed, the resulting detonation could destroy both boats and everyone on board. But Annabelle refuses to abandon the creature. She senses that it has given up, overwhelmed by grief and ready to die. As night falls, Andre and the rest of the team finally receive Annabelle's signal. They activate the lighthouse, sending beams of light into the dark ocean. To their amazement, the creature responds, its body glowing in sync with the signal. The next challenge: guide it away from danger. Annabelle instructs the lighthouse crew to redirect the beam toward the open sea. But just as the plan begins to work, the military arrives in town. Jimmy, fueled by both grief and bravery, gathers the townspeople. He joins Sylvia in forming a human barrier to block the soldiers from accessing the lighthouse. Together, the residents of Fay Camp stand to protect the creature. On the boat, Annabelle listens to the animal's sorrowful wails. It hits her, sound, not light, maybe the key to reaching its heart. She asks Lee to play a recording of a piano melody she once played for Enzo, her late son. As dawn breaks, the soft strains of music travel through the ocean. The creature hears it. Slowly, it begins to move toward deeper waters. To ensure the being stays on course, Julian and Pierre decide to escort it. But as the sun rises, the lighthouse beam fades, making navigation impossible. Then, a Navy vessel appears on the horizon. Realizing the creature may still be vulnerable, Annabelle makes a bold decision. She dives in to communicate with it directly. She believes their shared grief may create a bond no science could. Underwater, she finds the glowing giant before her. She swims closer and presses her hand to its body, allowing her own vibrations to speak for her. In that moment, Annabelle loses consciousness. In her mind, she reunites with Enzo in a dreamlike vision. She tells him she's sorry for what happened, for not being there, for letting him go play alone that fateful day. Enzo forgives her. As he fades from view, she wakes up, gasping for air. The creature is gone, moving peacefully into the depths. The Navy's systems crash, disabling their operation. On shore, the people of Fay Camp cheer as Annabelle and the returning boats safely reach the harbor. The following day, Fay Camp gathers in solemn remembrance. Harry organizes a heartfelt ceremony to honor the crew lost aboard the Rosa Davies. Families gather at the shore, placing photos of their loved ones near the waves. Alongside the image of the fallen fisherman, Annabelle adds two more, one of Vital, the brave police chief who died trying to protect others, and one of her son, Enzo. As the sea breeze carries Harry's prayer across the bay, the town joins in a collective moment of grief, unity, and hope. In the quiet after the storm, Annabelle and Julian sit side by side. The chaos is past, the truth revealed, and the creature, once feared, is now understood. After years of distance, regret, and personal tragedy, they find themselves once again drawn to each other by a shared history and a renewed sense of purpose. With hearts mended and forgiveness found, they decide to remarry and rebuild the family they almost lost. The sea, once the source of their deepest sorrow, now becomes a symbol of renewal.